something we all need. Gotta have it now if you wanna succeed. Striving, surviving, that's no doubt. Sticking together, we gon' find a way out. So all you young people, give it all. So all you young people, give it all. So all you young people, give it all. So all you young people, give it all.
Good evening, the back community. Thank you for staying engaged. Thank you for staying with us. We are now in episode 2 of season 2, and I have a childhood friend, literally. I was just talking to her about how many things I'm going to go ahead and say on camera that I know I'm not going to say. But you know, she might bring up how she got beat up in the past, stuff like that. We don't know. Back community, tonight's guest that we have with us is Paris Stovall, Minister Paris Stovall. We will be diving into her story, her new book that's out, as well as her Let Go and Let's Go Ministries. So we'll be talking about all of that. But first things first, Paris, thank you for extending me your time tonight. I look forward to telling your story. I look forward to finding out more about what you've been up to. And I look forward to telling your story to the Albany community. So thank you for being our second guest for season 2. Welcome, Paris Stovall.
Well, thank you for having me. I can't wait to tell some stories about you too. Woo! Finally got my time. No, I'm sorry.
So I've been waiting.
Yes.
Well, listen, man, congratulations. I did mention it earlier. Congratulations on becoming an ordained minister, if I'm saying that right. Also, congratulations on the Esther Experience. I did purchase my book. I haven't received it just yet because I just did it. It was earlier this week. So, but I look forward to getting that and diving into that. But before we even go into that, I'm going to hit you with your first question because for those people who don't know you, here's the perfect opportunity to tell the back community about you, Minister Stovall. So what are you doing now? What kind of work do you do? And what kind of passion projects are you working on? Here's your opportunity to tell the back community about you.
All right. Well, my name is Paris D. Stovall, and Tyrell know me as Paris Ballard. But so right now, like he just said, I just was recently licensed as a minister through my church. That happened in May. So I'm definitely very active in the church and in ministry, which I love because I love the Lord. Hallelujah. And also, I have recently just published a book that I wrote, which started out as a women's group study in my church. It was a request from from a leader in the women's ministry in my church for me to teach on the book of Esther. And as I was preparing for that study, I realized how I was actually laying this thing out like a book. And I said, you know what? I think this is something right here. Let me continue on with this little thing I got going. So I ended up doing that, and here it is, the Esther Experience. So I'm a published author now. To God be the glory for that. Also, just recently graduated as well. Took me about 20 years, but I did it, hallelujah. Still in school too, I'm still going. I haven't completely finished, but I have just graduated with my first degree and from Liberty University. So I'm excited about that. So it's like things have just been happening like bam, bam, bam. It's been a long time coming, but they came. My profession is actually in banking, finances. I've been doing that for about 17, 18 years. I think I started out in about 2006 in the bank industry, and I really liked it. I liked the way there's like no ceiling. You can go into any area of the bank and just kind of build up your skills to kind of know the front end, the back end of things. And my personality at the time, I was always very direct and not very shy. So they gravitated to me and pulled me right in. I actually got into the bank because I was doing a banking transaction And I heard the bank manager say something about hiring a different girl that she had just interviewed. And I was like, well, don't hire her, just hire me. And she was like, are you serious? And I said, I'm serious if you're serious. And she took me in her office and she literally gave me an interview that day.
Nice.
Hired me, and I've been in banking ever since. So my profession right now, I just transferred into a different department that's new with my company, which is the home equity department. And I'm the closing coordinator with that. So my profession and my actual interests are kind of very different. My passion is the Lord. My passion is ministry. I have a passion in writing. So those things are my passion. My profession and my experience is with banking and finances, though.
Okay. Before I actually get into your formal questions, I did want to go back and ask you, what part of Albany did you grow up in? I always ask everybody that I interview because, you know, everyone's from the Capital District area. So I always like to identify, you know, what part of the city or the Capital District do you call home for you?
Do I rep?
Do you rep?
Now you done forgot how to talk. Okay, no, but I always say I'm crosstown. I was 12209 zip code, so we wasn't really downtown. We wasn't uptown. We was just like crosstown, you know. So of course it's the Second Ave area, you know, Second Avenue area, or from my zip code, Delaware Ave area too. So I always say crosstown.
Okay. Yeah, man, I always associated crosstown with like Myrtle, Dana, that Boys and Girls Club area. You know,
that Delaware Ave area.
Yeah. Okay. But I had to throw that out there. I had to figure out, you know what I mean, like you said, what set you rip. But yeah, I do remember you getting into finance. I didn't know that you were still in that industry. So shout out to you. You said what, 15? That's 15.
It's been 15 years. I thought it was longer than that. About 50. Oh no, I'm lying. It has been longer than that. It's been 17 years since 2004. Because I just recall my oldest son was 2 years old when I started working in banking. So in 2004 was when I got into it. So it's been 17 years now, right? Okay. I work with finances, but I can't do easy addition. Now you ask me something about some interest rates or something, I could help you out, but don't ask me what 10 times and 2 and all that. Like,
don't worry, man. I might be coming back around that to you too, man. I think I'm gonna take out a home equity line of credit on the property up there.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll see. But congratulations, because staying in the profession for that long is not unheard of, you know, to put that amount of time into one profession and stay in one area is dope. I've been same thing with mine, I think 15 years.
Okay.
But yeah, congrats to you on that one. I couldn't get that out. Right.
Thanks.
So why did you choose your career? And is that something that you always imagined yourself doing?
I honestly feel like the career chose me. I didn't really choose it.
Because of that banking experience?
Yep, because of that one experience. I was actually a person who used to say, if I ever work for a bank, I'll never work in the front. Because I always thought about the whole robberies and all of that stuff, right? And as soon as I started, I was right in the front. But that experience, you know, what I learned is they like outgoing people. They like people who aren't shy and people who are go-getters, who are aggressive. So people who aren't afraid to talk and who aren't afraid to ask. So the fact that I came in with that, my regular personality as myself, you know, she just drew into that. And as I learned the banking business, I realized how easy it was for me to adapt and do what I needed to do. So I kind of leveled up fast as I was in the industry. I started off as a teller Of course, coming in with no experience, but I think by the time I was 10 months into that career, I had moved right into the platform. Nice. And where I was doing like, you know, the office stuff, the loans and accounts and things like that. I automatically became like somebody who was in charge. So I had access to the bank and, you know, basically I was like an assistant manager, but we didn't have assistant managers, an employee in charge is what they call it. So I moved up into those levels kind of fast and, you know, adapting fast. I was able to adapt and learn fast, and that's just what happened. I really didn't choose it. I never thought that I would actually be in banking, and I liked it, but I didn't think that that's where I would be.
Okay. Let me see. Here's a good one. Only because for those of you who don't know, I think I met Paris. We might have been in 7th grade. And, you know, I'm just gonna go on air and say this. I just remember meeting you, and I was just like, the name Paris, I had never seen anybody with a name like that prior to that. But this next question is going back into your upbringing. Is growing up in the Capital District, what kinds of programs or opportunities did you take advantage of? And do you know if any of those opportunities still exist today for the youth coming up?
Well, I was always very athletic. I liked sports. So I stayed involved in sports throughout school. I also, you know, basketball, I tried track and stuff like that until I pulled a muscle, and then it was a wrap for track. But so, you know, staying in sports, I also, you know, the summer programs where they used to allow us to work. I don't know if they still have those happening in Albany now, but, you know, getting involved when I first started my summer program, I forget what that program was called, but I stuck with it every summer because it was like you got to work in the school with mentors and mentees.
It wasn't, you're not talking about the Schoolworks program, was it?
No, it was called something, I can't even think of it. I can't think of it, but it was a good program that I wanted to be a teacher growing up. So that program allowed you to work in a school, and you worked with older students as your mentors, and you were the mentee. But as I continued to stay every summer, I became a mentor and had mentees. So nice. It was nice. And also academically, I think you were a part of it as well. The Sponsor a Scholar program. Yep. They just picked up my intelligence a lot faster than they picked up yours. So they chose me. They picked me right out of Hackett.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. Yep.
So yeah, Deb White. Remember Deb White?
Yep.
You know,
Deb.
God bless her. So
wasn't Deb your mentor?
She was for a while, but they found me. So it was hard. We couldn't match me right away.
Because of your personality, right?
My personality, I really didn't like the people. I was so bold, you know. I didn't like the people that they were matching me with. So I was telling them, like, no, that doesn't work for me. So Deb used to keep me close. She kept me close to her, and we did have someone eventually, but. Yeah, Deb White, she was one of the people who interviewed me for the program when they first started it. Nice. So I got picked for that program in the 8th grade. Nice. And followed through with it, you know, all the way through high school and in college, how they kind of stick with you. So that was one of the programs that I did growing up. And nice. And they still have that program. Yep.
Sponsor a Scholar. I'm so glad you just brought up Sponsor a Scholar because I attended their graduation ceremony. It was virtual this year, but you know, I stay in contact with them. I used to sit on the board of directors for a while for Sponsor a Scholar.
Nice.
I love Sponsor a Scholar. Yes. Sponsor a Scholar helped change my life.
Wow.
And thank I remember God. I used to give speeches when I first graduated, and I would always talk about how when I went to college, I didn't know that you had to pay for books. Right. And I started to tell this in the speeches. I was like, you know, when I went to school, I didn't know you had to pay for books. And it was like, but luckily I had this scholarship through Sponsor a Scholar. I was the first person that actually got money from Sponsor a Scholar because we weren't supposed to get into the end of the semester, but I was so broke. It was just like, I said, listen, they just told me I got to pay for books and I don't have no money for this. So I got my disbursement. They maybe gave me half of my disbursement to pay for my book. Something like that. I just remember that whole process. And that program is still alive and kicking. The reason why I asked the question is because, especially on season one of the recurring things that I kept hearing from a lot of the people that I interviewed was about how the resources that we used to have are just not readily available anymore. It was like, whether it's the Boys and Girls Clubs, 15 Love, it seems like we had activities in every part of the city that you lived in. And right now, with everything that's going on, it's kind of like, where are all of the programs? So that was the reason why I asked the question.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like a double-edged sword, honestly. Some programs have died out. And honestly, sometimes because of how situations are and things are happening in communities, it causes some programs to kind of shut down or die out because, if you're concerned about your protection and your children, you're not going to send them somewhere where you feel like their safety is, at risk. So it's a double-edged sword because a lot of the stuff that comes up and the things that happen, it puts the programs at risk of, just going away. And for the people who want it, who need it, who's like, what about us? It's like, what do you do? That's just one of those things that it's really trying to figure out, what do you do in a situation like this? I know there's people who they want to have things open. They want to be involved and active, but how do you do it and be safe? How do you do it without putting people in high risk? Because it's out there, it's happening. And I think, maybe going back to starting things on an elementary level, trying to build them up from elementary school through, because I think we had some of that as well, where if you had things where you can start off young instead of trying to bring them in as teenagers or, from middle school to the end of high school, those years, it's kind of like they done been exposed to so much at that point. Trying to get the ones that's already out there to come to reel them in is a little harder. So, trying to get them as little children, getting them in the elementary years may help if they can start building programs back up from in that, I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard one.
It is. And I literally had a 2-hour conversation earlier today with my friend who's works for DSS. And it is it's a lot of different things that are going on. It's not just one thing that you can put your finger on, but it's so many different things that are going on. You got to deal with them all in real time. And these are real people's lives that get affected. There's your livelihood gets affected, and your safety is number one. You know what I mean? I say all of the time. It's like, how to, even for people who want to own property or bring businesses to certain areas, safety is huge. And you want to be able to ensure that you're going to a safe environment. So, working on those plans to try to get us back to that side, because it wasn't always as bad as it is right now. You know what I mean? Like, you had people that dipped and dabbed, but at the same time, it was just like it was isolated among certain groups.
Yes.
And then it was just like, but now it's just rampant. And you ain't even got to be a part of nothing to be a part of something. And it's it's the level of respect has kind of evaporated, because even back then, like we said, there's always been things happening. There's always been violence. We've grown up and we've seen stuff, we've witnessed, we've been a part. But, why you keep lying to your audience? I'm going to, we're going to have I'm going to pray for you. Thank you. See, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. See, the Lord done delivered me. And here we got you trying to bring me back. Lord, won't they do it? Nah, but I think the level of respect that the teenagers and even the young adults, like, it's just not there. And like you said, a lot of stuff was isolated. You know, if something happened, most of the time it was a targeted situation. Right now, when things happen, you can just be, like you say, it could just happen to anybody. It's not targeted. You could just be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And, you know, stuff that we would normally do back then, we used to walk everywhere, go to the parks, walk uptown, downtown, you know, we were out and about, and you just didn't think that, oh, if I go here, or if we're at the park, or if it's a crowd of us, something gonna pop off or happen. We just didn't think like that, you know, because it normally did not happen that way. We were still doing house parties and stuff at that time. So, you know, it's a lot different than it used to be. And it's because a lot of the respect has died out amongst the people. So.
Yeah, listen, those were golden ages. The Boys and Girls Club parties, secrets. But you know, don't worry, I digress.
We thought we was grown, but yeah. Look, drinking those little Bloody Marys at secrets, like we was really drinking.
Like, I said, what? I remember the first time I went up there. It might have been Tori might have taken us out there. I might have been with Tata. And I think Tori might have taken us out there. I said, "What? They had like a virgin Bloody Mary." Like, holy moly! So,
thought you was the junk, huh?
Yeah, man.
Nah, but yeah.
Yep. Well, let me see, man. I actually sticking on the same topic about how you were brought up. How did your friendships and bonds that you formed growing up in Albany impact your adult friendships?
Well, honestly, I even though I got along with a lot of people, I did get along with a lot of people. I really didn't have a lot of friends. And the same friends that I had then, I have now, which I can say is a blessing, you know, because a lot of people can't say that. Friends that I had from middle school, those are still my friends today. And my adulthood, I have a few of them that came along as an adult, but I always had real friends. I always had friends they didn't try to be something that they weren't. They were just themselves. You know, we were able to just be ourselves. And so it helped you to be just transparent. You know, as I grew up and I obtained friends in my adult life, I was always able to just show them, this is Paris. Yep. You know, and I already know that I'm an acquired taste. You're gonna either want to be around and you want to be adapt to me, or you're gonna be like, I can't do her. But you know, and my personality as well. A lot of people did want to adapt to me, but I was always very discerning, even before I knew I was discerning. So I didn't connect with a lot of people. You know, I'll go hang out and things like that, but I really didn't connect. So I've never had a lot of friends. I've always been very, very tight knit with who I would call a friend, and who, like, the people who I would say are my friends now, they feel like they're more like sisters to me at this point. You know, they're not even just friends. It's not even a normal relationship. Yeah. I don't even know how to have a friend outside.
And you said, listen, you're family now. You don't reach the part of you family. So, yeah.
I mean, when you make it over 20 years with somebody, then they done seen you go through everything. Yeah. You know, so it's a different ball game after that. So I can say I'm blessed with the few that I have. Okay.
Hey, man, it is quality over quantity.
Yes, sir.
I say that all the time. Quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. Let me see. What do you think? Here's a question about the community for you. What do you think keeps the community from coming together to find solutions to help bring about a change?
What keeps them from coming together?
Yeah.
My honest opinion is our communities still really, stick to that street code.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, the street code was different, Yeah. And I feel like now when things happen in our community, people know what's happening. They know who did it, who was where, who's there. And everyone's crying out like, oh my goodness, why did this happen? And so, why is this happening? But we know who, and it's like, we know so much, but we don't really come together to do anything about it because everybody is, everyone's friends, everyone's connected in a way. It's weird, it sounds crazy, but from my experience, I just noticed that when a lot of things happen in our community, everyone is connected in some way. So no one is being held accountable for things. And so it causes a rift. It causes a rift because we want to be able to handle things. It's like we're fighting against the world, but then we're fighting against each other as well. Right. And the Bible will tell you, like, you can't, if any house that fights against it or that's divided will not stand. Any house that's divided amongst itself is going to fall. And we're just so divided amongst ourselves. And that's why it's hard for us to stand strong together. We can't just come together when certain things happen in our community. We need to come together off of everything, not just negativity, but positive things, It shouldn't always have to take something traumatic to happen for us to want to speak up and make our voices heard. We should want to do that on a regular day. What can we do today to strengthen our community, to stand strong together, to not be divided? And I know that there's a lot of people that have that attitude and that mentality, but it's hard when it's only a few.
Yes.
Amongst many.
Yep.
So.
And it's the attitude that it's not enough space for everybody. And really it is. It's like everyone's a threat. Oh, we got similar ideas, or, the idea that it's not enough space for everybody. So it makes it seem that everyone's your competition when really they're not your competition. They're not. Right. And it's just like, being able to realize that, put your egos aside and say, what's the best thing that we can do as a collective and not put against one another. I've seen that, maturing into my adulthood in Albany. It was more of trying to put people against one another, especially if you are fighting for the same thing. If you guys are vying for the same type of monies, if you're running programs. And it was just like, when we learn how to put that away and learn how to say, you know what, Paris, this is a skill that you have, you're great at this. Tyrell, this is a skill that you have, you're great at this. Let's be great at what we do and utilize those skills to help. I think that will help us to bridge that gap and bring a little bit of a closer bond back to the community. But that's what I'm
like learning how to enhance each other. Like our gifts are different. It could be the same thing, but what I do with my gift is gonna come out differently because it's coming from me. And what you do with your gift is gonna come out differently because it comes from you. But if we could bring those things together, collectively and enhance it. And it's enough room for everyone. You just don't. Once you have to actually get in the space to know that. It's not a competition. It's about all of us there's enough money out here. If it came down to money, like, oh well, we have to eat. We got, it's enough money out here for all of us. Honestly, I see people who have the same talents here in this area that I live in now, that with artistic talents and things like that, and they're so creative, but a few of them support each other so much. So like this person can get so much props, they'll represent the other person, like, hey, try this out, because there's room. There's so many people in our communities. There's somebody that's gonna want to gravitate and go to you, or somebody that you might have a lot on your plate, and you can say, well, I can't handle anymore right now. Let me send this person over here, help them build. There's room for us to do that, but it's a renewal of the mind thing. It's a mental thing, a mental state, and a lot of people haven't reached that state yet. It
takes time.
It does.
It takes time. And actually it's going to go back to one of your gifts. It takes time. God develops each of us on his time. We got our own plans, and then God has his plan. Right. But, that's going to help me to dive more into, why the Esther Experience? Why the Esther Experience? I know it started as a women's group, but why did you entitle your book the Esther Experience, and what led you down the path of ministry?
So the Esther Experience, as I was writing the group study, it was for women, right? And as I'm reading and studying and writing, I actually did a passage in the book of Esther a few years prior for a women's conference at another church that I was going to. And there was just certain things that stuck out to me in that story back then that I thought was like, wow, I never, when you start reading the word and God starts to just like give you the revelation and the light bulb starts to come on. The things are so simple, yet they didn't seem so simple before. But I was just connecting with the experiences that was happening in this book. And I mean, from the beginning to the end. And I'm the type of person, when I read the Bible, I like to read it as the story. I want to know about the person.
Yep.
The way it used to be hard for me to read the Bible in the past because it was just like a series of events. I'm a storyteller. I like to tell the story. I want to listen to the story. I loved history in school because it captivated me. It caught my attention. I want to know what's going on. What happened? So I had to go back and learn the people in order for me to retain the information. That's how I learned. So with the Esther Experience, it was the same. I wanted to learn the people. Who is Esther? Who was, who was Queen Vashti? Who was Xerxes? I wanted to know those people individually so that I can understand the story.
Okay.
I can understand the story. So as I was doing that, I realized that, from the beginning with Queen Vashti all the way to the end, with the celebration of Purim, we experience so many of those things today. That's what the Bible is really showing us. Like nothing that you've experienced is something that's brand new. Nothing's new under the sun. We experience those things every day as women. And I wanted to just bring it out as sometimes we have a tendency to want to look at the next person and it's their fault, or they're the reason why I'm hindered, or they're the reason why I felt provoked and I came out of character, or I did this or I did that. But what I did with this book was I did boomerang moments. Let's not look at them, but let's have some self-reflection. When have you been this person?
Yeah.
We look at situations and we say, this is what I acted this way, or I've done this, or I made this choice because of what someone did to me. And we don't think about, there has been a time in our lives where we've done things to people as well that would have made them hurt, that could have hindered them, that could have, given them negative thought. Like we have been that person before as well. So it's like taking a story and applying it to yourself. And I say, like, through this book, I can say that we all have some of every character in that story in us, whether it's now or whether it was past tense or whether it's something that we may experience in the future. And so that was the intention behind making it the Esther Experience, because it wasn't just about Esther and the story that happened with Esther. Actually, Esther probably was the least talked about person throughout the book, because it was the experiences surrounding her and how we relate to those experiences. But I think ministry was always in me. I just didn't recognize it. You know how God works. I always kind of had that motherly thing about me when it came to my friends. Always was able to, listen, hear them out, be the person who could be unbiased in a situation. So you're telling me, do you want to know the truth? Do you want to know what's right? I always had that thing about me. I'm not going to just be on your side just because you're my friend. I'm not going to tell you you're right because you're my friend. I'm going to tell you when you're wrong. Now, back in the day, would I still roll with you when you was wrong? Yes. Thank you, Jesus, for deliverance. But, I'm going to still tell you you're wrong. But come on, let's go. But, I always kind of had that. And even in teaching, I told you earlier that I always thought that I would be a teacher. Yeah. And didn't what my friend who passed away, her name is Shanika, she passed away a couple of years ago. She was the one who kind of broke my mindset, like kind of took me out the box. And it's always something so simple. I told her, I was like, I always wanted to be a teacher. I always thought I would be in a school and doing this and that. And she said, well, you know that you don't have to necessarily be in a school to be a teacher, right? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. She was like, you don't have to be in a classroom setting to be a teacher. And it was something that simple that kind of just cracked that whole ceiling. Like, oh, you're right. I don't have to. And I realized that even as I was studying or just reading the Bible here and there, how I comprehended how the Lord had allowed me to, comprehend the stories and to be able to explain them in a way where other people got it. But I still didn't connect that to ministry. I just always felt I was smart. I'm smart. I get it. I didn't realize that it was the Lord really just working in me. And as I think maybe, I grew up in church, but it wasn't until maybe about 2011, 2012, where I really was like, really listening for God. Like, Lord, I need you to do something with me because I am a mess. It was just like, I need to know what am I doing with my life? What are you doing with my life? What can I do? I know you, but I really didn't. I go to church, but I didn't have a relationship. So he just started, it was like, I wanted something from him. So I just kept seeking him in my own way, still at where I was at the time, but he kept developing me and growing me. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, would I be a minister? I would have looked at you like you was crazy. Like, what? Me a minister? Don't you know me? Like, would you think that? So I didn't know that that's where God was leading me. But when he did reveal it to me, I knew, like, wow, he's been preparing me for this for a long time. Yep. How we always say that God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And even when we don't know what our calling is, he had been equipping me throughout the years. I thought that the things that he had gifted me with were just natural, which they were, some things were just natural gifts, but he was gifting me and preparing me and developing me in those natural gifts so that I can help in his kingdom, so I can help build up his kingdom and help in ministry. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, I get it. And that's what I do. I wasn't even, I minister, I wasn't aiming for that.
Yeah.
That's not something that I was even looking for. But I know that that's what he has me doing I'm called to teach.
Yep.
So the teaching that, it's like he planted that seed in me when I was a kid to teach. I just didn't know what type of teacher I would be. I didn't know that I would be a teacher of the gospel. Mm-hmm. So all this time where I have this desire and I have this passion of teaching that I just want to do, I just want to get there. And he brought me there, just not the way I thought he was going to bring me.
Nice. So. Nice. Yeah, it made me think about it. It was like, I think I really got serious about learning the Bible. I want to say my junior year in college, and how it happened for me was I got invited to go. I always work with kids. Period. Mm-hmm. So like, mentorship has always been a huge part of me. Yeah. One of the ladies who used to be like my mom away from my mom when I was at school, she asked me to come speak to a group of kids at the church there. And I went and I was telling them about how to make the transition from high school, what you're going to want to prepare for when you get first in college. And, I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with the atmosphere. I started regularly going to church. And wow. I used to be scared of going to church because I always thought that I had to change who I was. I always thought that I had to be a certain way. And then in my mind, I always said, well, you know what? I live better than these people anyway, right? And, one, how wrong was I? Because my approach was all wrong. And I soon came to realize that church wasn't about anybody else. Right. It was about my relationship with God. It was about my learning experience. And then I started bringing a notebook with me. I start taking down notes all the time, just the same way I did in class. And you'll be surprised, I mean, this is for everybody else, obviously not you, but you'll be surprised how much you grow when you give yourself the opportunity to just be immersed in what God is trying to show you. And, from there, I used to have three different Bibles I would look at. I would look at the kids' Bible first. I look at the kids' Bible. Then I would do the New Living Translation, and then I would do King James because I had to work myself up. I was like, King James, I can't do King James, so I gotta understand the story first and then work myself up. Yes. But when I was having my first son, I said I wanted to get baptized before I had my first son, and that was when I became baptized, because I was like, Lord, I'm gonna need you to prepare me for whatever I'm getting ready to go through, and and to strengthen me in ways that I didn't even know that I needed or I had within me. But hearing your process, like you said, it's like you weren't looking for it, you didn't, but here it was something that God had put on the inside of you. He knew already through your development, through your experience. And I think that's what a lot of people forget, that all of the experiences that we have are for a reason. And it's not just for us. Yes, 9 times out of 10, it's not just for us. It's about you being able to take your experience and relate to somebody else. Yes. Take your experience and to be able to prepare somebody else. Take your experience and be able to, like you said, build up God's kingdom through your experiences and realize how God has used you. So I just went off on a tangent, but you made me think about it.
No, but that's good, because, and the funny thing is college sometimes can be a hindrance in your growth because of a lot of the things that you learn through school kind of contradicts the Bible. It a lot of things that, well, I won't say you, but, I found that, as I was going to school, I had the most questions about the Bible. I just graduated, but I've been going on to school on and off for a long time. And, and of course, I said history was one of my favorite subjects. So I took a lot of history classes, and a lot of stuff always came back to me, contradicting what I had grown up to read and learn. So I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And I had my childhood pastor. He was, I love him to this day, because he always used to just bear with me and my personality, because even when I really didn't have that close relationship with God, because I wasn't trying to live righteously and I wasn't trying to live, for him, but I still wanted to know him. I was interested, I still had that thing. And he used to always bear with me in my questions. And I said, I asked him, well, how do you know that this happened? How do we know that this stuff is real? And how do you know? He said, well, when is your birthday? And I was like, it's November 14th. And he was like, well, how do you know? I said, what do you mean, how do I know? Because it's my birthday. He was like, but how do you know? And he's so sad. He said, but how do you know that that's your birthday? I said, because it's on my birth certificate. Because my mother told me. He said, somebody had to tell you. I was like, you know what? You're going to stop catching me with that stuff. And, it was like somebody had to tell you. Somebody had to be there to tell you that your birthday, what if your birthday was on the 15th? You would say your birthday was the 15th, but you go by, what somebody had to tell you. And he was like, do you trust your mother? I'm like, yeah. He was like, do you trust that she would tell you the truth? Yes. So that's why you would trust that your birthday is on November 14th. You weren't in the consciousness to know that that was your birthday, but you believe that that is your birthday. No one can tell you no different, because that's what your mother told you. So he would kind of just break things down to me in that magnitude. I would have questions I always had those questions, Adam and Eve. Well, God, if the Bible, people talk about the Bible is only 6,000 years long and are 6,000 years old, that's the history and this and that. And so it doesn't make sense. How come this isn't adding up? Where's the dinosaurs? And where, they got fossils over here. I ain't heard you talk about no dinosaurs in the Bible. Having all these questions. And he said, well, I ain't put a lot of the names of the animals in the Bible, but I call them creatures. Yep. He was like, they in there, creatures. And I said, well, what about the people? Adam and Eve, you know, and you talking about they died at 900. He was just hitting me with revelation. This is the Lord, the Spirit of God just hitting me with this stuff, because I had questions of my own, like, God, this don't make sense to me. Yep. And he, you know, and it was revealed to me, like, you know, they was in we don't know how long they was in the garden. They didn't start to expire until they sinned. Mm-hmm. That's when they started to age. That's when things started to time. So, you know, it was just things that started to make sense, like, and then I had to learn that, you know, sometimes, you know, science is a theory. Science is there to trying to figure out. They don't know. And I have a book, I have this Bible that I trust and believe that tells me the beginning and the end. And I choose the Bible. So it was harder for me back then to kind of, even though I grew up in it, I had questions. I questioned a lot. And I think that people shouldn't be afraid of that, because sometimes if you grew up in church, I don't know if you grew up in church or not, but you know, I used to hear you don't question God, you don't question God. But God knows us. He knows our minds are curious. He knows our hearts. He knows when we don't understand. And when we need that revelation and that light. And every time I've ever had a question concerning his word, eventually, I ain't gonna say right then and there, but eventually something was revealed to me that put that question at peace.
Nice.
So he definitely developed me throughout the years. Thank you, Jesus. Woo.
Let me see. I'm actually going to go to a topic that is near and dear to me because it is something that is running rampant throughout the Capital District, as well as other communities throughout the nation, period. But how have you been impacted by gun violence in the Capital District area?
I will have to say that it hasn't directly hit me, but it has directly affected people that I am close to. And it's really sad. Honestly, I cry. I cry when I hear about an act of violence in our community. It doesn't even matter even if it's not our community. When I can't even watch the news.
Yep.
Sometimes I won't even go on social media, I might go on there and throw something on there, but I won't scroll through because I do not want to see another negative thing happen. I don't want to see that someone else got shot. It's so overwhelming. And I literally cry as if it was something that happened directly to me. I feel like, a lot of times it's hard for people to empathize with the situation when it doesn't happen, when it's not at their door. It's not until it happens, when it's right at the foot of their steps is when they realize, wow, this is crazy. Like they're affected by it. And I have sons. I have 2 sons, and I just can't even imagine. Yeah. I have a brother. I couldn't even imagine. And I can't imagine what the families are going through, especially because the weird thing is, at our age, a lot of the people that are being affected are people that we know. Yep. It might be a younger sibling of theirs or a cousin, but they're people that we know. And it's like, wow, I can't believe this happened again. And, there's a couple of ones that were very, one of my close friends, who brother was killed by gun violence. And you just never think it's going to happen, but it's just happening. And it's so common right now that it's like you just wake up the next day and you just wonder whose family is it going to hit today? Yeah. That's how crazy it is. And so I can't say that like my home, it hasn't directly affected my doorstep, but it affects my heart. I can't even help but to cry out. Yeah.
Directly or indirectly, it affects us all because it goes back to that same thing that we mentioned earlier. Safety, what I mean? Being able to feel comfortable knowing that your kids can go outside and play. I just think about a community as small as Albany, right? And say that, everybody knows everybody. Yes. So you might not know me up front. I might meet you, but by the time I get a chance to really know you, I'm going to find out that, my aunt knows your aunt or, my mother knows your dad.
Connected somehow.
Like and, so when those types of things hit, it affects us on so many other levels, but then it affects us in a way that people don't even know how to talk about, like mentally and emotionally and spiritually, how it really affects you and what you got to walk around with, knowing that this is my environment that I'm in.
Yes.
So, it's a really tough feeling. I don't dive into it as much because in my mind, I feel like I'm out of the direct danger zone, as I like to call it. But, Albany is so near and dear to me. I'm always back home. I'll be back here tomorrow. And It's just like, but, I just really wish that somebody I interviewed last season said, Tyrell, so we need to learn how to take it back to the hands.
Right.
People just afraid to get beaten. I should introduce them to you because you took a bunch of beating.
And you did, you know what? You used to get beat up, Tyrell. We know. You're not gonna put that on me.
I'm just kidding.
But you know what's funny is that I said this, one of the hardest things for me in ministry, and I can't even imagine the pastors, the leaders, the spiritual leaders in the community. It's so hard when you hear about someone's death, right? Somebody was shot and killed yesterday, and you have to get up and you give a message of encouragement. You still have to do God's work, right? You're giving a message of encouragement. You're giving a message of, for people to keep their peace, to keep their joy, to keep on, seeking God. And it's like there's like this weight on you. I have to give this message when I know this just happened. And sometimes I'm not even in that, at that capacity of leadership, I would say, but even in what the little that I do, sometimes it's so hard to just go up and want to give an encouraging word when you know that there's somebody that's literally mourning right now. I mean, that has to be sometimes people look at the leaders and like, well, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're people.
Yep.
If that affects you, it affects them. It's affecting their church. It's affecting their members. It's affecting people. You know how many I said one of the things that I will almost dread, with the Lord bringing us into leadership, if it's pastoral for my husband and things like that, is having to do funerals. The fact that they have to, we know that that's a part of life, but there's so many deaths that's happening. Can you just imagine? How can that not affect a person? I know Reverend Kamathier in Albany, he's the one who's been doing the funerals for a lot of people who have died due to gun violence. He's been holding the funerals at his church. And he's always been a community. He was my childhood pastor. He's always been a community pastor. He's always been out in the street, but I can't imagine if, having to have a funeral at your church almost every other week of a young person who didn't die from health issues or who not an elder who lived a long life and, they were put to rest after, they had done and lived out their purpose. But for somebody who was killed, like that's mentally draining. That's mentally draining. So
it drains everybody. So as you just said, it'll drain the pastor, it'll drain the ministers, it'll drain the parents, it'll drain the schools, it'll drain the cousins, it'll drain the brothers, it'll drain everybody to the point that you get desensitized a lot about what's happening because some people think that it's normal, and by the grace of God, I know that it's not normal.
Right.
I survived a lot of it, but I also know that it's not normal.
Right.
And it's just like, so how do you tell somebody, how do you show somebody that's going through it on a regular basis that this isn't the normal reality? How do you encourage them? How do you give them enough hope to make it from the present situation to realize that there's greater later? And I think that's the piece that I struggle with.
Yeah, it's hard. That's definitely hard to do. It's like the only thing you can really, encourage them to do is like, well, you know what, you are here today. You have a chance to do something different. You have a chance to look forward to a better tomorrow, like take it day by day. What can I do today to make things better for my life, to make things better in my community just today. You know, who can I touch today? Who can I encourage today? Who can I speak some positivity in today? You know, sometimes it's so much going on and it's so big. It becomes so overwhelming to us because we feel like we have to have a big answer. You know, I have to have an answer that's big enough to cover this weight, that's big enough to hold this weight. And we don't have you know, God is the answer. But what I mean is like, you know, as our part, you know, sometimes we feel like we have to do so much to help. And it's just, if we all just did a little bit, you know, if I just did something today, you just did something today, they did something today, and just did a little bit on our part to make it better. And then it will collectively be the answer. But that comes with us not being divided. That comes with us actually coming together and wanting better, you know? So it's hard. That's a hard one.
Yeah. I agree. Well, let me see, man. I got, I have 2 more questions for you before I let you go. Okay. One of them is I actually want to go back to Let Go and Let's Go Ministries. How did that come to be? What is your ultimate motivation behind creating that? And what is the message that you tend to give out to your audience?
So Let Go and Let's Go was something that I started in 2018. So it'll be 3 years in October. And my intention was to actually, I say prayer call all the time because it actually was intended just to be a prayer call. I set up a phone line and I wanted to, you know, just give people some words of encouragement and pray. I was like, you know, and praying was always I always felt like when it came to prayer, I was the weakest link. When it came to my family prayer, we'll come together and pray. When it came to church, I always felt like the weakest link. And I believe that, you know, because I felt that way, that's where God used me the most. He kind of built me up in that area because I always knew that prayer is very powerful. I knew this before, you know, he used me. Like, I don't want to play with prayer. If you pray for me, I want you to have some power. So if I pray for you, Lord, please give me the power to do it. So it was just weird that was the thing that he wanted me to do. Like, you want me to pray for people? So I started the phone line for people to dial into. And I started to do it streaming on social media because at the time, there were people who phone lines wouldn't allow them to connect to the prayer line. Even though the prayer line was free, certain services wouldn't allow you to connect. So they started to request, like, can you go on Facebook or can you do this? And that scared me because I'm like, I don't want to have my face on Facebook. I don't want to be praying for people in public. You know, I want to do this way. And it was weird. You know, God was kind of setting that up because I was already doing it by the time COVID-19 hit and shut everything down. Here I am already going live with women or men too, you know, whoever wanted to join in and doing prayer. So it was pretty much to give people encouragement in their everyday life and to learn how to let go of whatever weight they were holding, whatever things they felt were hindering them, whatever mental blocks they had, like, let it go. It's like, you know, you will feel such a relief if you just learn to let go and move forward. And so the let go was like, let go of those things that's hindering you, but let's go, let's move forward. And that's the intention. And, you know, we came onto Facebook and I started to stream it, but I'm happy that I do it. I have a few people that's been sticking with it for those few years. And I've always felt like it doesn't matter whether it's 2 people or 22 or 2 people or 2,200 people. If you have been touched, if you say on there, I needed that today, I know that call was for you. You know, I needed that prayer. I needed that message. I needed that word. If it's just one person, and I would leave my line open. I made myself available after the call for people who wanted to talk to me personally or who wanted prayer personally, because sometimes you don't want to expose what you're going through. So I left my line open and I would get people that called. And it was shocking me as well because I didn't know, but they called and we prayed, or they were expressing themselves. We ended with prayer, and God has just been continuing to use me that way.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I think I was able to catch at least 2 or 3. I want to say, I was looking for something on your page earlier today, and I came across the one with you and Nate on it, right? So I didn't realize how much you post until today, right? Because I was looking for one thing in particular, right? And I said, because I wanted to make sure I said it right, and I was just like, I believe she's an ordained minister now, and I was looking for this post, right? And I knew it was there because I remember watching it, but then I had to go through so many things to get there, and I didn't realize how often you post and how often you do have the lives with Let Go and Let's Go. And it was just like, and then I came across the one with Nate. I said, oh, I missed that one completely too. So now I got to go back to go watch that. So, but I think it's whether it's one, whether it's two, whether it's many. I think that being positioned to be used is what's most important. So shout out to you for doing that and keeping that going for the last 3 years. So
going on 3. Yeah,
going on 3. Let me see. This one here is one of my bonus questions. This is my I'll ask you. This will be my last question. Actually, I love this question so much from season 1 that I carried it over to season 2. Even though I have all new questions for season 2. Shout out to Crystal Word, who is my wordsmith at Crystal Carter Word for putting those together. Yes. I love this question so much that I brought it back into season 2 too. So, what is your favorite place to visit in Albany and why?
I would have to say that my favorite place was always the Plaza at night.
Okay.
The Plaza at night, and it was always because, it just seemed so peaceful there at night. I would always go there to walk. I would go there to walk, and it didn't matter what time of night it was, even when I had my children. If I just felt like going outside, I would park my car over by the Plaza, walk right over there, and, just take the little walk. And they just loved it. It was lit, well lit. And there's other people, no matter what time you kind of go through there, that's either riding their bikes or walking their dogs or, just walking with each other. I don't know, it was just always a peaceful place for me mentally. It was just like, I don't know why, but that, and there's so many places that you can probably think of, but that was just the one place. I even say sometimes that I wish we had somewhere like the Plaza for us to go here, where I can just pick up. It could be anytime at night, like, you know what, you want to go walking? And that's the place that I would go to. And it's just the way it is out there at night. And it was never during the day. I didn't do that during the day, but at night. It was just very peaceful to me. It was I
think that's probably been the number one picked place.
Really?
People love the Plaza. They love the Plaza for the historicness, the historic richness of the Plaza, and how we had the Black Fest and being able to exercise, being able to walk, find that peaceful, beautiful, green place at night. But I've heard almost everything, and I think that's the Plaza has been probably number 1 on there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, the back community, tonight's guest has been Minister Paris Stovall. I like to call her Balls, because her last name used to be Ballard. So, we always make jokes, and she calls me yes, right, because
I ain't forget.
So
you see how he just went like that, and see, I didn't do that. I didn't give him that expression. He know.
Listen, man, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being motivational. I can't wait to get my book, The Esther Experience. So I'm not sure.
I have it right here.
Boom. Everybody, if you have not, check out The Esther Experience. You'll be able to find contact information for Paris once I go ahead and upload this video tonight, so that way you can go ahead and get your own copy. Follow her on Instagram and on Facebook as well, and I'll have the details for that. Also, if you are looking for Let Go and Let's Go, our Facebook page is also available as well, and I'll be sure to include that as well. But like I said, Paris, I've known you for numerous years. I'm absolutely proud of you, of your family. Thank you for being a part of the BAC community. Is there anything you want to leave the people with? Is there anything that you want them to know about you that I might have missed before I go ahead and let you go tonight?
I would just say that one thing that I love is that I learned to be myself, and I learned that God still uses you as who you are. He wants to use you as who you are. So I didn't have to become some fancy talking, prestigious, highly educated person in order for the Lord to use me. And one of the best things that he did for me was in breaking the ceiling of life that I was dealing with, and the mental blocks that I put in my own way, was he showed me that he gave me successes outside of what I thought I needed to be successful. And which was important, because I thought that I had to go, if I didn't go a certain way, that I would never reach the things that I desired. And he actually flipped that thing on me, and he gave me the things that I desired through, and it was all because of him. And then the things that I thought I needed to be successful, he gave me after. So when I say that, I mean, even with the education, he made me a minister before I had a college degree. He made me an author before I had a college degree. He made me a homeowner before I had a college degree. He made me, help me to be successful in my profession before I had a college degree. And I always thought that it's good to have an education, and I'm not taking away from that, but for myself, I always thought that I needed to do that first before I can obtain anything, or before I could look worthy of what I had, I had to have the credentials to back it up first. And God said, no, all you need is me. And he gave it all to me, and I just thank him for it. So whatever you desire, whatever it is that you believe that God has planted in you, don't think that it has to be a certain way or style or the way someone else did it. God can do anything, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So don't give up. Keep on going.
All right. And we have heard it there from Minister Paris Stovall, author, writer. Thank you very much. I'll play catch up with you later.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
Keep climbing up the ladder. A Black Lives Matter. They matter. So all you young people, give me all. 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 Matter, matter. A Black Lives Matter. They matter, they matter. A Black Lives Matter.